Today we're going to be looking at the identification and evaluation of children with suspected disabilities under the Federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act law of 2004. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about what is required of school districts related to IDEA. We'll talk a little bit about child find and SPED evaluation, and also the school nurse role in SPED evaluation. So first of all, we'll talk a little bit about child find. So every local education agency, or LEA, which is basically just a school district, must establish procedures by which children in need of special ed and related services are identified, and these are known as child find efforts. School districts are required to find the children who may have disabilities in order to provide them with the services. So districts are not told how to do it. They just know that they are mandated to show that there's been an active effort to identify children in need of services. We know, in general, how children within the district are found. They're found by, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in this lecture series, they're found by teachers, parents, ancillary staff. But what about the children who are not in school yet? So this is children in preschool, children who don't go to preschool. The district has an obligation to also find those children. So I challenge you to go out and speak to your special ed manager or special psychologist that you enjoy talking to and find out what the child find procedures and processes are for your district. Next, we'll talk a little bit about special ed evaluation. So before any student can receive special education or those related services, before they're placed in a special education program, they have to be determined to be eligible for those services. So the first thing is they have to be determined, it has to be determined, does the child have a disability that's an eligible disability as defined by the law, one of those 14 eligibilities, which we'll eventually talk about. Then second, if the child requires those special education services, are they because of the disability? And then third, what is the nature and extent of the child's needs that will be addressed within that IEP or that individualized education plan for that particular child, individualized being the key word. So the federal government is basically saying that even if you are a parent or a teacher, or anyone, if you feel that a child might have a disability or a child has an issue that is preventing them from accessing their education, the child should be evaluated to determine eligibility for special ed services as defined by the law. It's really important to understand that the evaluation of a child for suspected disability is an individualized evaluation, meaning that the procedures and the methods of an evaluation have to address the child's unique needs rather than being a general assessment that can be used for all children. We don't do a standardized assessment. We do something that's specific for a child and specific to the possibility of their disability. So what this means is that a child who we don't throw the blanket of everything at every single child for every single thing. We look at the child's needs, we look at what the indicators are, and we create an assessment plan for the child that is individualized for what their particular possible needs are. So how are students identified for a suspected disability? Some indicators of children who may have a suspected disability who might need an evaluation are that the child's rate of progress is not what is expected in the sense that other children are making progress in a certain way and this child is not progressing in that same manner. So, or if the child's level of performance is significantly discrepant from his or her peers, so that the average, let's say, on a spelling test is 90 or 95 within a class, and this particular child, the child in question, is consistently low in the 50s, not once or twice, but consistent. Or the child has a known or unknown physical or health condition affecting their performance. We may know about a condition and it may or may not be hindering them, but there might be a physical condition or a mental health condition that we don't know about that we need to evaluate for. Or the child's behavior or interpersonal interactions might be adversely affecting the child's educational performance. And this might be when the child's behavior in the class is creating difficulty, preventing them from performing at a level relative to his or her peers. So we know that children behave poorly in class, but the difference is that some children behave poorly, but they're still able to perform their educational duties well and stay up with their peers, while others might have behavioral issues that are preventing them from performing their educational duties and getting, progressing in class. So finally, if the child's response to classroom accommodations or modifications that have already taken place have not been successful. So let's say the child was seen by the student study team, the SST team, or there were RTI adjustments or accommodations made, RTI related, response to intervention, meeting accommodations made in the classroom, or if the child had a 504 plan and those accommodations and modifications were made, but the child still had issues and those things did not seem to work or make a difference. That would be an indicator that the child would need to be evaluated then for special education services.